First of all, thank you very much. I thought that was extremely inspiring and very much to the point. I would like to address the one thing that you said we need to, it's about collaboration. So, because many of you have much more knowledge in the technical solutions. I won't go into that. But to me, I think we have to start by realizing that we in the region, yes, we are competitors. Of course we are. Every nation, every region, every company, every organization, every university, whatever we talk about, we do have a competition. But moreover, we have to see that we are also collaborators. Because as you said, we're small, but together we could be big. And I think that is the point that I would like to come back on.
Sure. Thomas?
I was thinking about Russia. Coming to think, when you're here, we have an annual party going on, story down only, and it was actually, well, it was brought up by Russian money, kind of Russian oil at least, part of it. So we have a very, very close interconnection with Russia, of course. We don't anymore, and you might wonder why. And I think the reason for it is that, well, you all know the reason for it. The experiment that kept on going in Russia for quite a long while. And we are just seeing the aftermath of that. I think that if you give it time, me being an economic historian, we will have a tighter collaboration with Russia. And I understand also from the Baltic perspective that Russia is much closer than perhaps what Russia is for Sweden or for Norway. But in our region, in the regional context, it feels arguing these issues that we are today, it feels kind of wrong doing it without taking Russia into account. Because if Russia didn't develop the way into freedom and economic freedom, I think the region would look differently. I think from the Finnish perspective, for instance, the economic development of Finland since Russia went democratic is impressive. But I think that would have been very hard unless Russia wasn't democratic. But to the technical point, then, I think that the cross-border collaboration on big data is very important.
All right, we'll get back to that. Tiit, Paananen?
So I know Taavi very well, so I know how he's thinking, but just try to extract one point, which is let's do it. The thing or example I'm making is very peculiar. When you look why Estonia is where it is not because of the uber strategic, the top-minded scientists figured out that this is the way we do it. It was that engineers who didn't have strategic ICT management, etc., they just did it. And they learned as they go how to do it better and how to do a next iteration and how to add this service and that service. Oh, now we need an architecture change, let's do it. So they iteratively actually developed us to the point where we are today, where like almost 100% of services are online, basically, from government side. So this is the same model that Nordics can do. I mean, we can hold these Kutera meetings for quite some time, but I assure you nothing will change if we don't put some engineers on it.
All right. Markus, Lohi?
Well, does it work? Yeah. I would introduce me a little bit more because I came from the northernmost part of Finland, from Lapland, and I say quite often that we have a quite short growing season, as you can in practice see today also. But even if my home city, Rovaniemi, is capital of and the official city of Santa Claus, I think that we can't wait anymore that the Santa Claus give us in future presents. That we have to do something in practice to cooperate, international cooperation between each country in this Baltic Sea area. I think that even if all these countries, each country compete with each other here. Also, we try to get investments in each country. But if we look at this area from a little bit far away from Asia, for example, we can see that the Baltic Sea area seems to be like inland water. And I think that it's the core point. When I hear this keynote speech of Mr. Kotka, I think that the connective factor was the international cooperation between the countries and at all.
Okay, Henrik, Ishihara.
Thank you. I believe that all the questions that were raised by Kotka were interesting. The first one I would stress is the one of cross-border cooperation when it comes to e-governance. And I would say that I'm quite familiar with the phenomena because in Sweden we have pretty much the same system since the 17th century. We didn't have we had no reason to start from scratch like 20 or 30 years ago. So for good and for bad, we still have the same structure with vertical structures, vertical sectors of the society that are not too good at cooperating, which means that we have different government agencies concentrating and focusing on one sector, and they're doing a quite good job within this vertical sector. But try to get them to cooperate with different structural sectors of the society. That is quite difficult. We have introduced a new e-government strategy where we try to focus on bridging these difficulties. There are some services, for instance, we have the Swedish tax authority and the agency for corporations. They have introduced a new service, which means that you can go to one website and you can start your cooperation. If you want to start a company, you just have to go at one stop shop. And they are providing a very good service, but we need to be very much better than this. So I understand that there will be difficulties cooperating between countries. I mean, if we have difficulties cooperating within one country, of course, there are going to be difficulties. But we have a cooperation at the Nordic Minister Council. There is one group focusing on e-governance, and the issues that you addressed, Kotka, is being addressed there. But I can understand that from a private sector perspective, things are going very slowly. I admit that.
All right. Thank you so much for these initial remarks. And what I want to talk to you about, Taavi, is that your speech was supposed to talk about what the region has accomplished, its potential, and also its challenges. And you just talked about the challenges. What do you think that are the key points that you can see for the region that are things that we actually can take with us into the future that we've done well?
Actually, the preparation paper, what was created by Microsoft, I think it included all that.
All right. So you just have to read that then? Yeah,
you just have to read that. Because all countries are doing good, really good. And the question is like, can we get out from it more if you do something? At least this digital prescription, for example, let's do it, let's put that together. That's it. And maybe then other initiatives will follow. But let's have the first thing up there.
I think in each country, actually, what you have is that, considering that e-governance part, is that governments actually want to make themselves more thinner, right? They want to be more efficient, have less cost, and be more efficient, right?
Do they?
I think so. At least Estonian does. So, so you have all those e-services from the government. That's a sign of that. That's a proof that it works. And this is very, very efficient because if you make yourself yourself invisible, you don't cause any friction points, so economy can really blossom and get on with it. You know, you can start a company in 15 minutes. You don't have to go and do, I don't know, 4 months or something like in other parts of Europe, right? So if these governments will continue to do that and not only make themselves efficient, but also start to bring more value into the play. So right now I have to establish company because government wants me to be a good taxpayer and wants to have my papers ready. I don't need that. They need that. So if governments start providing services to entrepreneurship or entrepreneurs, etc., that they can actually build value into the process, like not only that I can register a company but I can also issue an invoice in 20 minutes. That would be a power.
Okay. You talked about prescriptions, trying to get that as a example. What do you think about that, Henrik?
I think that's a really good idea. We have it in Sweden. As Nana told us, we are not that good at it compared to Denmark, but we still use it. But there are, other examples which I like to emphasize. For instance, we have if you go to the dentist here in Sweden, under some circumstances, you're eligible for financial support. In 99.9% of the cases, this financial support is handled totally automatic. The dentist or his or her assistant enters the information in the computer. From that, the money is being transferred automatically to the patient. No need for any person to get involved. It's done by computers, and it saves a lot of money. Yes, we want to get lean. We want our government to become more efficient. This last summer, we decided that each government agency with more than 50 employees have to handle all their procurement online. This decision alone will save about 320 million euros of the taxpayers' money. Quite a simple decision, but we save a lot of money, and it's also making the public sector much more lean and efficient.
Okay, I'll get back to you, Annika. What do you think are the key points for going into the future and leveraging the so-called lead that we have?
Well, I think, there is a huge potential, and the lead is there. And what is interesting is that this region actually has been quite in the forefront for some time now, since late 1990s, and so there should be a lot of experience that we actually by now should do something about, and obviously we are doing something. And I think I would like to come back to the question that I feel that the development is very much driven by the entrepreneurs. And I would assume that you probably need some support from bridging over it in cultures and through the support systems between our countries, because the more we can collaborate within the region, the easier it will become for entrepreneurs to continue to develop good solutions, for governments to continue to use the good solutions and the experiences. And I come back having the feeling, some sort of feeling, that we are afraid of using others' solutions. It's slightly not invented in my country, not invented in my region, not invented within my organization. So I think I have to prove that I'm better. And we have to get around that. We have to start using each other's solutions. And this is of course easy said, and I think that the fact that our young people are not really feeling that they are part of the same region. They are more interested in going to the US, more interested in going to Asia, than to get to know each other within the region. And I think we do have a challenge there. I have really not any good solutions, except for the fact that if we could have, you said, triple diploma or triple stamp diplomas, I think that's an excellent idea.
Sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
wanted to comment that with this kind of let's do it things, you always need leadership, and someone has to take initiative. And I totally agree that, for example, if somebody from Latvia come to Estonia and say, "Yo, Estonians, that we have this funny new thing. Maybe you should
put your data in."
Yeah, maybe you want to use it also. Like, I would also say that it's a Latvian thing. It can't work. So it's obvious that, for example, currently we are speaking with Finland that this cross-border secure data exchange, that in Estonia we call it X-Road, and we have had it, I think, more than 10 years already, and we are now starting to develop a 6th version of it, and we have proposed to Finland that let's do it together, that both countries will have their own X-Road, but we develop it together. That we both put money in, we both put people in, and let's do it together. Even though both countries finally will have their own version, and both countries will manage their own version as they want to. So, but let's develop it together, so we can share the knowledge, etc. So, but it's still it's still going on with the government. Let's see what happens there. But if this will be an example, we can also ask you from Denmark and Sweden and Norway to join and have one developer center, just because this cross-border data exchange, it's a very simple technological solution. From technical point of view, it's very simple. But as you said, it's hard from the law point of view.
First we have Thomas and then Tiit.
Yep. Yes, I was looking at the sustaining the region's global position as the theme for the panel. I'd like to say that there are a couple of things that I think that from my perspective is important, just to mention two of them. One is venture capital and the use of venture capital. At least in Sweden, this is a dilemma. We are very innovative, but it's harder to commercialize the ideas. We topped, right as the Vice Mayor said, we top in most rankings when it comes down to innovation, but we need to commercialize those ideas. I think that's key for the future. Then regulation. We find that national regulators, they don't really get along with development. The development is too fast. So for instance, when you are at Stockholm University or Royal Institute of Technology, you do education in a way that the regulator hasn't seen before. So the regulator says this is not an academia, this is not an academic course, but it is. So we need to have regulations, and we need to work for the regulators to understand that this is what we need in order to get that best brains that we need in the future. And that's why I think the cross-border data transaction is important, because now we're talking about technical changes that actually can disrupt the world. So let's do that. I mean, it's good to do the prescription thing as well, let them do that, but do the things that really influence businesses. To make the new things, gadgets and whatever have you, that's a good export success.
So okay, Tiit, and you actually started by talking about how actually maybe it's not regulation we need, but deregulation all over the board.
Well, I think regulation for the information side is extremely important. The Estonia showcase of it, since we introduced mandatory acceptance of digital signatures by government, then everyone started to use digital signatures, because they have to accept your document if it's digitally signed. So it's extremely important to have legislative framework develop in collaboration with the ICT sector. Question is, does each country has strong enough ICT lobby body or somebody who can actually propose those changes that are needed? Estonia has. I know we are part of this institution ourselves. But actually I would go a little bit back and look very objectively. Do we actually have hunger? Do we actually have a need to do that. And I think there we lack the drive, because hunger is either you have malnutrition, so you're getting thinner and thinner, and you're getting weaker and weaker, or you want to eat more, which is like you're ambitious, you want to conquer something, and that usually needs very articulated, very well-defined goals. I think in this group here, we don't have those goals yet. I looked through the preparation material, and I found one goal, at least, that was there for Denmark, which was that they want to have a highest rate of high-growth enterprises in the world by 2015. That's very, very measurable goal, because if you're number one, you're number one. It's a binary thing, you know. Do we have goals that actually feed that hunger? Obviously, we are not malnutrited, and we have enough body mass index to survive for some time, but do we have ambition actually there? Do we acknowledge the threat coming from east that is really, if we are not there, will be left behind, basically? I think many people don't realize that situation at the moment, and that's where Russia argument is very powerful, of course.
Okay. Sure. I have a question for you as well, but go ahead.
Yeah, I think that I agree you that we need mutual cooperation between, for example, Estonia and Finland and Sweden and so on. Because I suppose that if we are only waiting that something happened, for example, single digital market in European Union area at all, the whole area, we have to wait many years. And that's why I think that we have to do, before that big development, something in this area also together, because the rhythm of the European Union decisions are too we have to wait too long time, this development, and that's why it's necessary to do together something.
What I want to ask you, Henrik, is where does government responsibility start, and where does it end when it comes to these questions? People always talk about they want a overarching strategy from the minister of blah 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 to put forward that everybody could see as clear strategy, and we need political leadership. Could you talk a bit about where do you see that where government leadership or government responsibility starts and ends when it comes to these questions?
We've been working a lot with strategies within the Swedish government. For instance, we have a broadband strategy which aims at providing 90% of the population and businesses with broadband capabilities of at least 100 megabits a second. We just launched the strategy for e-governance. I believe that leadership itself is very important. But we also use these strategies to pinpoint what is the role of the government, but also what is the role for instance, the operators, local municipalities, and so on. Because with that strategy, the responsibilities might become unclear. We noticed that without the presence of a national strategy for broadband, everybody sort of expected someone else to do the job. They were expecting big funding from the government were waiting for the operators they were waiting for permits from the local municipalities. With this strategy, we pinpointed what is the role of the government, and we made it very clear that we are not going to provide broadband. I mean, it's not going to be a sole responsibility from the government. Once the operators knew this, they were willing to invest, because if you do invest, you do not want to get competition from the government the next year. And also, we told the municipalities that it's also a responsibility for you to provide permits, to provide local strategies to help the operators to facilitate this growth. So the most important thing with strategy is to make clear where the responsibilities lie. That's my opinion.
Markus, same question to you, of course.
Well, I suppose that the main thing is, however, that each country in this Baltic Sea area should mainly develop, especially the business environment. I think that because we have some restriction, of course, the resources to support the companies or make any big investment in this sector, but however, it's the question of the will. How do the politicians could support and could develop the legislation and regulation that we can open the digital markets here, this area? It's not only the question of money. And I, of course, understand as a decision maker that after 2008, when the financial crisis faced the European countries, especially Eurozone countries, after that, the resources are the problem to invest in this especially the sector. But we can develop our regulation, and that's the main thing, I suppose.
Taavi?
I already mentioned that in my speech, but if we talk about government role building information society, like I said, the government should be a driver. Why? You are building broadband all over the Sweden. I think all the countries are building their broadband systems. Why we do that? It's infrastructure. It's like roads, the same thing. But with ICT, you should know that it's not only the cable that goes inside the land. It's also the first service levels on top of that. I mean, the service layers like this cross-border secured data share hub or service layer. This has to be provided by the government. The laws and initiatives for digital signature has to be provided by the government. The first examples how to do cross-border collaboration should be provided by the government. Others can follow. What I've seen in Estonia is that I have to mention also cybersecurity has to be provided by the government. But when all this happens, when this ICT infrastructure, that is not only cable, it's electricity, it's cable and service levels. After that, private sectors can start to work and collaborate. But first examples has to be driven by the government, because these initiatives are so huge that none of private sector companies can invest so much or like can have this kind of agreements between.
We'll talk about that later this afternoon.
Yeah.
We'll talk about public and private partnerships. Tiit?
So yeah, I just can re-quote President Ilves in Brussels, where he said that biggest obstacles for this kind of IT infrastructure to be used in a meaningful way is actually privacy, trust and security. These are all the things that governments can give to people. I mean, they give us money, they give us roads we drive on, and they sort of give us that we actually own the houses that we have. You know, it's all in their records, basically. So similarly with the future services that can be offered, even private services can be, these can utilize the infrastructure that is at the new level, providing you privacy, security, and trustworthy environment to work with.
Okay, we've talked about a lot of things here, but if I wanted to ask a question to each one of you here in the panel, more talk about what can you and your organization do in this context? Actually, what can you do to make this happen in the future? I'd like to start with you, maybe, Annika. What can you do?
Well, you know, the Swedish Institute has the role of bringing out a broader understanding for Sweden, or an understanding and trust for Sweden in a broader perspective. So that includes basically all areas, and not specifically the ICT sector, but of course that is an essential part when we talk about Sweden. And again, I think that what we can do is really to collaborate with our colleagues in the area. More specifically, and we will come back to talk about that is actually how we can attract talent to the region. We didn't really talk about that, but I think that is one of the key factors, naturally. But not only attract talent, but also attract companies and capital. We have now been talking very much about the collaboration within the region, and that is essential. But talking about attraction, we also need to know what we can present. So that's why the collaboration is so extremely important. I leave it there. I think we will go back to the talent attraction, and then I will talk more about what my organization is doing.
Sure. Thomas?
And I'll pick that thread up. Well, I'm representing Kista Science City and the Electron Foundation, so I'm working with the geographical area in this region, of course. But in this perspective, what is my job then? Well, it's to see forth that Kista is known as Europe's top ICT cluster and one of 5 in the world. I think that when I do that, and when we do that in Kista, together with Nokia, establishing the standards for mobile communication, 4th generation, 5th generation, 6th generation in this region, I think that we have come a long way, and we have come a long way since 1870 when Carl Magnus Ericsson started this business here in Stockholm. I think that the brands that are holding us up, like Ericsson, like Nokia, and there are many more brands, build the recognition of our region. Have you Estonia, have you Finland, have you Sweden or Norway as a tech hub? And I think that we share a lot of similarities. We are similar. We are kind of technology savvy as such. I don't know if it's because it's dark here or if it's light here, but for some reason, we are really interested in doing this. So that's where I'll pitch in my efforts.
Yes, I'm going to forget the moment that I'm from Microsoft. Actually, Anna Louise did a great presentation on that. So I'm from Skype, and what we do in the region from that perspective, actually not much. We are a very product-focused organization, so we actually we develop software. So that's our main task. However, we have taken quite big obligations within Estonia, for example, launching together with the Estonian Education Ministry the IT Academy initiative that is there to attract foreign professors and students and up-level the IT education level, basically, that we have in Estonia. We had 4 programs, 2 collaboration programs with Tallinn and Tallinn Technical University and Tartu University, and then 2 programs from each university. We're going to have next year 6 programs altogether. The money that we spend on initiative is basically around 2.7 million euros, which the basic goal is to reduce the dropout rate from schools, because in ICT, what happens is that when you become sort of computer literate in the professional way, you're sort of being sucked into the development work in one of those companies, like Skype, for example, although we don't hire early birds. Anyway, you may discontinue your studies because there's more interesting work at the place you're working already. So we want to allow people to graduate and then come as a full-time graduate into the business and do it in a way that you are immediately competitive as well. So that's one thing we are doing in Estonia as Skype. Yeah.
All right.
If you look at the world map, every country looks at the world map on their own point of view. We are from Europe, so we put Europe In the middle, far, far away, there is Asia, and then on the left side, there's America. Have you ever seen what the world map looks like from Chinese point of view? So there is a China, a little bit Russia, and then far, far from in the left, there is Europe. Not even Nordics, there's Europe, like it's like a small area.
Taiwan belongs to China.
Yeah. And looking at this, you start to realize that if we want to keep this image of fast developing or ICT-based or innovative countries, if we want to keep that image, we need new stories. And we need these stories fast. Because whenever, for example, Singapore and South Korea start to sign digitally their contracts between these two countries, we have lost our momentum. Even though we talked about at least 9 years. I think we started this in 2005, this Baltic Development Forum, no?
I'm not sure.
I actually found a report from, it was a collaboration between different universities. It was called Future of the ICT Environments and Applications on the Nordic Level. That was the first hit I got from Google, basically, when I Googled for Nordic ICT collaboration.
You pinged it.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Sorry, I'm politically incorrect here. Yes.
Okay, it's time to wrap up.
My point was that
yes.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Fast.
Markus.
Well, I say something about education because this is also the sector where the government or parliaments could do something more, because I don't know exactly how is it in the other countries in this area, but in Finland especially we speak much about this, that we have very many innovation and inventions, and we register every year huge amount of IPRs and so on. And this part of the education is, I suppose, quite high level. But when we speak about sales and marketing, we have very many problems and challenges concerning this area. And that's why I suppose that productization and sales and marketing area, we should develop our education system also, even in Finland. But I don't know, how do you feel in the other countries in this Nordic area? But we have recognized this problem and this lack in our country.
Maybe we should bring a number of Irish people to Scandinavia as salesmen.
Yeah, maybe. Henrik, last word.
So what my organization, the Swedish government, can do, and I have like 1 minute? Well,
more or less.
I'll try, more or less.
2
minutes, thanks. Well, we have a lot of challenges ahead of us. We need to focus on better practice, like where can we learn? I'd be happy to learn from Estonia when it comes to e-government, and everybody in Sweden, we are so envy at Finland because of your school system. Really, I mean, we're really envious of that. But we also need to focus, for instance, gender equality. In Sweden, 80% of the ICT jobs are held by men. About 7% of the students that go to the programs for become civil engineer in computer science are women. 7%. I don't believe that men have some kind of gene that makes them more appropriate for ICT. We need to focus a lot about that. I believe that we should facilitate infrastructure even more. And one topic that will become even more important is that of spectrum, mobile broadband. How can we improve the capacity? If you have been to Sweden the last weeks, you've seen a heated debate about cell phone coverage. there are a lot of people being upset about that the cell phones don't really work that well in Sweden anymore. We need to focus a lot on that issue, and that's a typical cross-border area. We need to cooperate with our neighboring countries, because radio waves do not stop by the border. And I've also looked with keen interest on Finland's decision to open up the 700 band for mobile broadband. To some of you, this may sound like Greek, but if you Google on the 700 band, you will find more information about the Finnish decision. That's something that we need to take into account even here in Sweden, I believe. So these are some of the topics.
So could Scandinavia eliminate roaming fees for data, for example? In Europe?
Well, we've done it on a European level. Not get rid of it,
no,
but
let's forget Europe for a moment, you know.
we need to get a system where operators, they get their investment, money back on their investments without robbing the customers. We've done a pretty good job at EU level, but there's a lot of work needed to be done.
Okay, we have a question from the audience that I think that someone, if they feel willing, can answer. How can we increase the motivation for SMEs, small and medium enterprises, in the Baltic region, ICT sector, to start joint business project? To start joint business projects.
Cross-border?
Cross-border. Anybody got a good in the Baltics, yeah? Or in this region?
I can answer that.
Sure, go ahead.
As an entrepreneur, previous. We already see this happening, because when these countries talk more, we discover that we all have different skills. And for example, Estonians might be very good tech guys, but still Estonians are really bad in company management and building up very large global companies. That's the thing where, for example, Swedish people are very good, or Finnish people are very good. And what I see back in Estonia is that Estonians have understood that it's not only we, that this we means also our neighbors, and it's smart to grab a CEO or CFO from outside, from Sweden or from Finland. So I already see that happening, and I think we cannot enforce it by government. It's just a natural way how it happens. But it happens already.
All right.
Yes.
Sure. Go ahead.
May I just add? I think one important thing is that we actually, through our cities, our communities, our universities, and others, identify cross-border questions, because within the region we do have a number of challenges, that are not primarily within the ICT area, but where ICT is an enabler of solving the challenges, environmental or other. And there, of course, there are other opportunities in creating cross-border collaboration, potentially through the seed money that the Swedish Institute can provide, or larger projects that are funded by the Swedish Institute, or other players within the region. So it's not only between company to company, but it's also between public, academia, and business community. And we do have funding opportunities for that.
Okay, thank you very much. It's time to close this panel. Thank you so much for joining us.